You are listening to the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast, the number one place for spirituality, healing, and transcendence. I'm your host, Vivian Raquel Braha. Now let's get into it. I am so excited for today's episode. We have a fabulous, incredible guest. But before we get into today's episode, I'm really excited to share my new program called Get Rich. It's for coaches, healers, soulpreneurs who, if you're not making 20K income months on repeat, it's time to wake up. You are not put on this earth to live your purpose and still be broke. You are not meant to burn yourself out teaching 10 yoga classes a day at $20 or $40 each. Well, your gift, your power, your mission deserves so much more. That's why I created Get Rich. It's a 3-month mastermind where we collapse time on your success. I'm in your business helping you master the mindset and money energetics that actually hold wealth and the strategy that makes 20K months repeatable. Because here's the thing, strategy is only 20% of the game of success. 80% is energetics and mindset. And this is where we really anchor in. This isn't a course. This isn't fluff. This is a container that's going to change your life because you were never meant to chase your purpose and stress out about rent, about money at the same time. My favorite thing about Get Rich is that in December, we will be going on a retreat in upstate New York where we are going to up-level your business. You'll get testimonials from the other 5 women who are in this program, Get Rich. You'll get a photo shoot. We're going to do masterminding. So this is a place that you really want to be. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you're going to want to know. It's something I'm so excited about, something that I've been putting together for a while, and something that I know is going to transform your life. You can direct message me, Get Rich, on Instagram right now, or apply with the link in the show notes. This is something that you do not want to miss. This is so powerful. This is the time to say yes. If you know that you are meant for more, but you don't know how to get there, this is it. We are limiting the space to only 5 people. So run, don't walk, secure your spot. And I'll see you real soon. Now let's get into the episode. So without further ado, if you've been asking the universe for more money, more freedom, and more alignment in your work, this episode is for you. Today on the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast, we're sitting down with the one and only Grace Abbott, the badass founder of the How to Go Freelance, who turned her side hustle into a multi-6-figure business and has helped thousands of creatives do the same. She's here to spill the tea on how to actually make more money doing what you love, how to charge more without guilt, and how to build a business that feels aligned with your energy, purpose, and manifestations. If you're a spiritual entrepreneur ready to stop undercharging and start living the life you've been scripting about, this episode is going to activate you. Let's get into it. Hi, Grace.
Hi, I love that intro. I'm like, can you send me that? I need to put it on my website.
I'm going to send it to you for sure.
Perfect.
I'm so happy to have you here. As
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm a very big fan of yours. I love how you show up. I think it's every single day on TikTok, and you give these little nuggets of wisdom on how to grow your business. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about what your title is and what you do.
Yeah. So I feel like to share about what I'm doing now, I sort of have to go back in time and tell you how I got here. I have always been very entrepreneurial. My family owned businesses, and I always had a I can go make money if I want to mindset without having a job. So I just was always coming up with different services growing up and trying to sell things to people. So that innate business sense was always in me. And then in college, I ended up studying graphic design. That was a service that I really got into because I liked building my own website. And then I started working with other bloggers and offering them like collage services. So like really early on, I started quote unquote freelancing, but I didn't really realize that was what I was doing. I was just doing it because it was fun for me. So fast forward, started working at a design agency and then some startups. Eventually, I quit because I was so kind of multi-hyphenate creative that I realized I could make more money working for myself. So in 2017, I quit my full-time job. I went full-time freelance, and at that point, it wasn't that scary for me because I had been doing freelance work for so long. I just never quantified it that way. And then ever since then, I've been running my own business, working with a lot of women's wellness and consumer brands. A lot of people know me from To Be Magnetic. And in the last few years, I've just been coaching so many friends out of their full-time jobs into a freelance career and also consulting with business owners and solopreneurs, anybody who's self-employed, and helping them articulate their services, figure out how to market them, how to show up online. So like about a year ago, actually on 8/8, I launched my business last year. So this is good timing. I launched an e-course, How to Go Freelance, and started creating content so that I could give people more bite-sized ways to learn how to work for themselves.
That's incredible. And I love that. That was a really short version. I bet you it gets more interesting
Yeah.
than that. But for the person listening who's heard the word freelance but doesn't really know what it means, you want to break down what a freelancer is?
Yeah, so basically, a freelancer just means you're self-employed. So, whether you're a self-employed service provider or you're selling a product, or you're doing coaching or anything like that, that's the audience I serve. It's mostly solopreneurs, small business owners. People use the word freelancer, and it feels kind of like you're living gig to gig, but there's a way to do it that is a lot more empowering. Um, and to me, that means you have autonomy over your time. So you will own your own business as a freelancer or whatever you want to call yourself. And then you will offer your services directly to clients and manage the business aspects of your business as well, instead of having a job and doing those same services through the job. And this is a great way for you to start making more money, work with the clients you want to work with, design the services you want to, and kind of design your life more than you could if you had a full-time job.
And so, did you ever have a 9 to 5?
Yes, I did. When I was in college, I did something really creative. I like went to this liberal arts school for a few years and then I transferred to Parsons, got my associate's degree in graphic design. Then I transferred the credits back from my associate's program and made like a special major. So I kind of like double dipped credits everywhere. And then my senior year, I didn't have that many classes left. And my advisor encouraged me to go meet this woman who lived in St. Louis, like 45 minutes away from my school. And I had a great meeting with her, and she just offered me a job. And I wasn't going to get a job. I just thought it was a networking thing, but she like sent me a little proposal with a salary and like a role, and I was like, sick. I'll totally do this. So I was like, I think I was 21, and it was my senior year of college, and so like in January of my senior year, I started my full-time job. And so it was like, it wasn't every single day in the office, 9 to 5. It was maybe like 3 days in the office, a couple days remote while I was in school and going back and forth. And then I started working in the office, I think like in May when I graduated. And then I worked there pretty much in the office every single day for about a year and a half. And that was like a small creative agency. So we did a lot of projects with different direct to consumer startups. One of the last projects I did was name and brand the company Somersault, which is a big swimwear company. And we worked with a lot of venture backed brands. So I really started to understand like the startup world and business strategy and marketing strategy, all the different sort of services that go into running a startup I learned about at that job. And then I moved back to Boston. I worked at this startup called Full Lane, which is a clean beauty retailer. Credo actually acquired them, so they're like a Sephora of clean beauty. And I only worked there for like 4 months until I was like, I'm wearing so many hats and like pretty kind of underpaid for what I'm doing. I should just offer this directly to clients. So I actually turned that company into my first client. I was like, look, would love to keep working with you, but let's turn this into a service as opposed to a full-time job. And then I got other clients and filled it out. So I probably worked a 9 to 5, like 2.5, 3 years total until I went full-time freelancing and working for myself.
I want to talk about your confidence because I know to leave a 9 to 5 and not only leave, but to approach your 9 to 5 and pitch them in a way that's like actually hire me as a service
Uh-huh.
where you're potentially even making more money per hours that you're working takes balls.
Mm-hmm.
It takes confidence. It takes a level of inner knowing and self-worth to even approach somebody when you are supposed to be, let's say, on this level, and they're
Mm-hmm.
on this level, they're the one that's paying you. So I want to talk a little bit about how you were able to get that courage to speak up for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one way to get over imposter syndrome is to understand your inherent worth and also what your work is worth. And I was still doing a lot of, I've always been very confident, like I'm an Aries, and my mom was always like, "You're the smartest, the funniest, and the prettiest." And I was like, "I believe you." So like I really like rode off of my mom's hype and like believed her that I was awesome. And like I think that's one of the best things you can do for a kid is like really affirm like how amazing they are because it definitely got me a long way in life. Um, but when I was working there, I knew how valuable I was to them because I was like running so many of the operations. Um, and like slowly took over like the copywriting, the website, the emails, the everything. So in that particular case, like I had a lot of evidence that one, they needed me in some capacity, and two, they were going to have to rehire like five people after I quit. So in that case, I wasn't just kind of like a random fixture at the company. I was like almost the whole marketing and creative department. So it felt easier in that case to really name all my value and say, look, like here are all the things that I'm doing. These are all critical business functions. I'm not being like comped for them. And I don't even have the capacity to do all of these without burning out in like 6 months. So it's going to be best for me to like move into a freelance career. You guys already know I like to do so many different things, but would love to help you do this project that like I can own and execute on. But I did have to like really like get over my fear. Like I remember deciding to quit the job and my mom was like, even though she was my biggest hype man, she was like, "What are you doing? You have job security and benefits and whatever, and you're making 60K." And I was like, I don't care. Like I know that I can do this, you know? And so I almost had to like anybody who around me was like, "How are you going to make money? What happens between income gaps?" Like all that kind of stuff. Like I just almost like avoided it and completely shut it out and was like, "That's not my story and that's not going to happen to me." So that's one of the things is like even if you don't totally believe it, like you gotta fake it and put your blinders on and be like, that's not a part of my story. I'm not taking that in. Like I refuse to hang out in the space of what if. And that was like a huge benefit to me even back then. And this is when I was like 23 or 24. Um, and then, yeah, I refused to go there. I understood my value. And I like pitched an alternative solution back to that company. And then over the years, like I've really stepped into my confidence in my work, in myself, and my inherent value. And I feel like it's been one, all the inner work that I've done to really learn what self-love is and like integrate and own the parts of myself that, are yucky or like not fun to be with or anything like that. And then also like looking at my track record and being like, wow, look what you've done. Like I think it's really great to check in with all your milestones.
That's huge. I love that you said that. There's so many points that I love, but also like reflecting on all the things that you've already accomplished.
Hmm.
Somebody once told me that she has a vision board in her home of all, but it's a vision board of all the things that she's accomplished. So that when she looks at it, it's like almost like an empowerment board where she's looking at
Yeah.
all the things that like, and then it just takes her so much further. Another thing that I really love that you said was, I refuse to hang out in the places of what if, and you have
Hmm.
to put your blinders on because that is huge,
Hmm.
especially if it's coming from a parent because you take what they say, especially if you're close with them, to heart.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's really knowing that you know. I remember when I left my 9 to 5, my coworkers were like, but what are you going to do about health insurance?
Yeah.
That was like, but like, what if you don't make it? And I was like, I will. I will.
Yeah.
Like it's an inner
You,
knowing.
it's like that's a non-negotiable attitude you have to have, and like you will get there. And I also find that so many people procrastinate on quitting by being like, but what about health insurance? But what about benefits? But what about blah, blah, blah? Like the amount of money that you can make to like 2x your salary and more, and when I quit, I 2x'd my salary. Like, you have plenty of money to pay for your own health insurance, you know? And
Mm.
so I would rather like leap and figure it out later than like stay trapped in something just because I feel like I'm getting health insurance. And I personally never even used health insurance once in my life. So I was like, I don't care about health insurance. And I know that's not the case for many. But be careful of all those things that you use as excuses to not do the things you want to do.
100%. And I also want to highlight one other thing that you said earlier was the story that you tell yourself because it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
The story you tell yourself influences the choices that you make and how free you'll really be.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, telling yourself the story that I'm going to succeed, I just know it, it's like a non-negotiable, that's my reality. You
Mm-hmm.
made it so because you trust your own word and you trust yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
what were some things that maybe some like doubts or fears that would pop up that you would have to kind of shift the story around?
Before I say that, the one thing that I said to my friend the other day, because she was thinking of leaving her job, I was like, when have you ever let anyone else down? Right? And so many of us are the people that are ride or there, die, there to show up for everybody else, not letting anyone else down in work and family and friendship or whatever. And you have to have the self-trust that like you would not let you down. And I think really anchoring to that, like, if I look back at my track record in my life, like when have I ever not taken care of myself, you know? And really looking at the reality of how you care for yourself as opposed to like the false reality of fear, I think is really important and key and like also very soothing. In terms of the fears that came up during that time, oh, man, I don't really remember because it was such a long time ago. But one, people pleasing obviously was a big one when I was going to quit my job. Like thinking through, like, what are they going to do without me? And I'm right in the middle of a project and this isn't the right time for them. Like, it's never the right time to quit a job. So you just have to do it when it's the right time for you. So I think that is the number one thing. Like, it's like dumping someone. It's like Valentine's Day and then it's their birthday and then it's Christmas and you're like never breaking up with them. Like you just have to do it when you know it's the right time for you. So I remember like writing the quitting email and like my heart racing and then, going to the computer and sending it and then refreshing it and getting the response. And then I went back and forth with them for a while because they were like, no, please don't quit. Like, can you do this instead? Like, we'll give you a little bit more money. And then I had to stay the course and be like, even if you're going to pay me a little bit more money, I'm still not interested in this. I still know that this is my right next step. So I think that came up. And then I remember, like, obviously, a lot of people being like, how are you going to pay the bills? Like, what about this? And I wasn't really afraid of that personally, but I was sort of afraid of like other people's like psychic preying on me, of like them
Mm.
thinking like I'm not going to make it and like that negatively affecting me, which I know is like very woo woo, but I was like kind of in my like F off energy about it. Like, stop thinking about me. Like, don't even put that on me. And I think like true confidence is when you get to the point where you don't have internalized fear, so it doesn't show up in the world around you, and you know that you have fear if you're getting it back from the people around you. Like they're just a reflection of your insides. So in retrospect, like that probably was a very deep-seated fear that I was avoiding. And it was only in time that I realized, like, okay, now I've been doing this for 2 years, like that's never happened, you know? And even like last year, I let go of a big client that was paying a ton of my income. And I was going to be fine without them, but the fear came up again of like, oh God, like, will I ever make that much money again or like whatever? And instead of avoiding it or like running to go get a new gig, I like really focused on feeling the fear. And I was like, this is only about me feeling the fear and that's it. And then like a month later, I got a brand new client I like so much more. It filled the income gap completely. So that's kind of how I think about that.
Yeah, I love your definition of confidence. I love it. Until now, I'm going to reevaluate the way that I look at confidence. It was always unconditional confidence was when you didn't needed nothing outside of you to feel okay.
Hmm.
So you weren't relying on the client, you weren't relying on the partner. It was all in you. You felt
Yeah.
safe and good with you, but I really do love how you said it. And I want to talk a little bit about calling in your dream or your perfect client. How do
Hmm.
you do that? How do you call in, or how do you manifest, or how do you align whatever word you want to use with who you're now working with after you dropped the client
Yeah.
that was taking up too much time?
Yeah. Well, in the case recently, what actually happened is I really started spending more time on things that I enjoyed. Like I started going to Pilates class all the time. I've done a Pilates teacher training and I finally started training some students. I started spending my days really spaciously and like really just getting into the energy of joy. And the law of attraction, if you understand it, is basically like you're on the radio station of joy, right? Like you're only going to get joy on that station. But if you're on the radio station of like anger, you're only going to get on the anger station. It's like you're not going to get rap on the jazz station on the radio, right? So I was really cognizant of like really keeping my energy in that space of like joy and creativity and providing value, and really feeling through the fear and like that is what I've learned that self-love is. It's sitting with the feelings that you would want to spiritually bypass or want to ignore or not deal with. So those are my two things, like stay in joy and creativity and fun and like feel the fear. And then what happened was just somebody was listening actually to the TBM podcast and my now client said, "Oh, do you like that podcast?" And then my teacher was like, "Oh yeah, Grace built that brand." And then she texted me and I started working with her. So it wasn't even something I tried to do, but I think it was just like the energetic state that I was in and the willingness to be with the fear instead of try and like find a job as like a salve for the fear. Really interesting how the universe loves to fill a space with something that you would love if you don't quickly try and fill it with something out of fear.
Yeah. And I love the aspect of fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing something that like brings you joy to get into that energy flow of bringing more things that bring
Yeah.
you joy, like the right clients. One thing that I love about the freedom of having your own job is that it gets to be fun.
Yeah.
Do things creatively. You have a voice, you have autonomy over how you're making your money, how much money you're making. And it's really your own playful little playground journey to go on because you're choosing it.
Yeah.
You also get to choose how you deal with the fears that come up because not every single month is going to look the same. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a 9 to 5, you know, okay, every other week or whatever it is, I'm going to get X amount of money. And you're
Mm-hmm.
capped and there's safety there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although it's safe, you can't have as much fun and freedom if you're in your own job as if you were in
Mm-hmm.
your own job.
Totally.
So, would you say that perhaps there's a level of scarcity in someone who is in the 9 to 5?
I think it depends. Like for some people, a 9 to 5 is aligned for them, but if it's not aligned for you and you know that, then great idea to, in the words of TBM, find expanders, other people who already have their own businesses, already are successful freelancers, and people that are really doing it in an abundant way, not in a way that you're like, oh God, it's not going well for Mary, like, so it's not going to go well for me either. And it's interesting to think about your financial glass ceiling. That was a big thing for me. Like I believed when I quit my full-time job, I believed that like I deserved 100K, right? I had been making 60K, I think, like doing every job in the house, and I was like, I should be getting paid at least 100K. And like salaries weren't as high as they were now, like then and stuff like that. But still, I was like, I know that I can make 100K. And then when I quit, I ended up making, I think, like 120K my first year. And I was like, amazing, right? And then as time went on, like I was able to get to like 150K the first few years. And then I hit like 200K for a couple years in a row. And I was kind of like locked at like between 200 and 250. And like, I was like, why can't I make more money than this? You know? And I had this shift one year where I realized that like I was looking at my clients as my source of abundance, as opposed to realizing like the universe is my source of abundance. And like abundance and money come from everywhere. They don't come from one specific client. And you can't be like looking at your job or looking at your client being like, please give me more, because that is inherently lack. So when you ask if like 9 to 5 is lack, if your worth is tangled up in your job as your sense of abundance, then yes, you're in lack because you can have every everything you want in the universe if you're able to like stop staring in the corner and look out at the whole entire world. So that's kind of how I think about that.
Okay, and then how do you shift? How do you shift from putting your worth in your clients versus
Hmm.
the abundance from the universe?
I mean, for me, it was really a mental unlock where I was like, oh my God, like I'm Michael Jordan and everybody wants me on their team, you know? And I did a lot of like just like getting quiet and like sitting in like the spaciousness and the abundance that is life and that is open space and time. Like abundance doesn't just have to do with money, it has to do with like openness and spaciousness and not clogging up every minute of the day. And I had like 2 weeks of like meditating and I done a lot of spiritual work. And then like a couple weeks later, a new client reached out to me and I like pitched them a really high rate and they just said yes. And then I like got on this momentous downstream and doubled my income the next year. And then I was like, amazing. Like I just like then saw to believe that like, oh my God, I can make this much money. And then I've like continued on the track. So I see like every time I like get to a new level of my financial glass ceiling, I can like maintain it. And then I'm like, what do I need to unlock to get to the next level?
Ooh, one thing that's been a theme in everything that you said was looking at your track record.
Yeah.
Been
Hmm.
something that's really motivated you throughout your journey.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about maintaining it because somebody asked me a really good question the other day, and it like had that unlock aha moment for me,
Yeah.
which was she said, Vivian, if you got every single thing that you wanted right now, would you be able
Hmm.
to maintain it? Meaning, imagine you never worked out at the gym and somebody just gave you a six pack.
Hmm.
You'd be able to maintain that six pack. Do you have the skills? Do you have the resources and the support?
Hmm.
And it all clicked for me. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
get it. You have to be on the journey of building yourself up.
Hmm.
That's how you learn how to maintain it. That's how you bring people in and the right connections
Hmm.
and the support you need to expand. So,
Yeah. Such a good point. And I don't think we'd value it as if we just got it all. Like, I've been thinking about that a lot recently. Like, if all of a sudden, like, we had the house and the soulmate and the job and the this and the that, like, we wouldn't even appreciate it or care anymore. It's like we want to be on the journey. We're here for the surprise. Like the fact that like something incredible might happen to you tomorrow or next week and you have no idea what it is, like that's the stuff of life that we are excited for and that we signed up for. Like we didn't just like come have a human experience so we could have six packs and sit on a pile of, like that's nothing, you know?
right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting you bring this up because I have a client who has a ton of money. It's the last thing she ever has to think about.
Uh-huh.
And I tell her all the time, like money for a lot of people is just the thing that gets them to where they're meant to be. It's like the
Uh-huh.
lesson. It's like the little
Mhm.
ladder, the little step on the ladder that you have to get to. Whereas for other people, that's not the thing. That's not going to be the crystal trigger that gets them to where they're meant to be.
Mhm.
And it's just because we've normalized money and to be put on this pedestal. I have to
Mhm.
work to get it. All of these beliefs that you have around it, that
Mhm.
for so many people, it is that thing that they need to
Right.
heal their relationship with in order to get to where they want to be.
Right.
How I like to look at money is really funny. It's like imagine you have vanilla ice cream and then on top of it you have the chocolate shell. And the
Mhm.
chocolate shell, that hard shell, is the money, but really the value of money is the vanilla ice cream or whatever kind of ice cream you want to make. Like what are
Mhm.
you made, what is underneath your shell? What is
Mhm.
underneath that money for you? And
Mhm.
what we often find is that it really isn't about money. It's about the story we created. It's about the
Yeah.
worth we attached ourselves with the money.
Mhm.
So I love that you found that the moment you realize, like, wait a second, it doesn't only have to come from the client.
Yeah.
That it really took you to your next money ceiling.
Yeah. And I think that to add on, that's such a great analogy is my relationship with money is more fun. It's more creative. Like I love figuring out creative solutions and creative ways to make money and like for me generating money is just generating energy, right? Like I'm giving energy all the time, whether I'm giving my energy to a project or to giving somebody advice or maybe I buy something or sell something, like it's an energy exchange. So we want to exchange energy to get energy back. And like the universe wants to reward people that are of value, that are shining their lights, that have something to give. And so a lot of people are stuck in the very baseline, like just how do I pay for food version of money. And yes, a lot of people are in those types of situations. So if you can get out of survival mode with money and then put yourself in a place where you can be a creator and use money as a tool and a way to exchange energy, I think that's really powerful to shift your mindset around it. And for those of you who are in a situation where you're not able to pay for your baseline needs, one thing that I always really encourage people to do, especially my freelancers, is like put your creative, spiritual, everything ego aside and like find one thing that pays the bills and make sure you're taking care of yourself first and then add on the fun stuff after, because there's nothing more confidence giving than knowing you can provide for yourself. And I see a lot of artists in particular who have like the starving artist mentality, or they think I don't want to violate my artistic craft by like charging for it, or by doing graphic design instead of multimedia art. Like all that's doing is making you hate your craft and keeping you poor, right? When if you were like, okay, I'm going to work 20 hours a week doing a customer service job and that's going to pay my rent and pay for my food, amazing. Then what? I open up all this time to do my art, and then I'm going to make my art take off so that can become more of my full-time job. I think really thinking about how you view money strategically is what starts to make it a tool for you and starts to make it fun.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about me because you don't.
Yes, please.
When I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
And, my mother is somebody who can never just settle on one answer. We went from doctor to doctor to doctor until we found this little cute old lady who was a manifestation coach. And this is like, I was 12 years old. I was very
Yeah.
young. And, she taught me everything she knew. She told me things that I don't think any coach would ever tell anybody nowadays. Like, she's like, get off your medication, spit it out on the toilet. If you don't believe you really have it, like, really not believing. But
Yeah.
in 3 months, I had no inflammation in the body. I was off all medication and I became manifestation obsessed. I would
Amazing.
read every single book. I would anything that you could think of, I did. And when I say every single book, there was like five on manifestation in the like not even it wasn't in self-help. It was in a completely different section of the bookstore.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to say I was really obsessed.
Hmm.
And when it came to leaving my job, my 9 to 5 to do this full time. I saved up the 3 months. I was so scared, but I knew I had to do it. I
Hmm.
had a great support system. And I remember telling my boss, like, hey, this just isn't working out anymore. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't think it's a fit. And he's like, but could we still be friends? Like, like a real breakup. He was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, it's not you, it's me. Like, I'll still say hi. Like, don't worry. Which
Hmm.
reminds me of your story a little bit. But all this to say that when it came to belief and when it
Hmm.
came to, okay, do I trust myself to be the person that's going to do all these things? It was hell yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I had the 3 months saved up that, like, when the naysayers asked questions, I was like, but I have 3 months saved up.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, I didn't need the 3 months to know that I was
Mhm.
going to crush it.
Yeah. Amazing.
It was a real deep belief. It wasn't even a belief, it was an inner knowing.
Yeah. That's really cool. And also, I didn't even have 3 months saved up. I was just like YOLO and I quit my job. I was like, I'm so good. So I think when you have that inner knowing, which to your point is more of a body feeling than it is a mental thing. When you have that knowing, you just move forward, and it's like something else is moving you rather than you having to reinforce your thoughts all the time.
So when you have, and maybe you don't anymore, but I definitely do. If you have any fears that come up,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like you're at that month and you're like, I want to go higher. Where is my opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain ritual, routine, anything that you do to help you get back into that place of, wait a second, I'm doing what I love. I can trust that it's all going to work out.
Yeah, totally. For me, like the practice of like being with whatever arises is what I really come back to. And I do that with a spiritual coach that I work with. And when I connected with this coach a couple of years ago, she's like this amazing woman who lives in London, and she's more seasoned, and she's not just like a 20-year-old in her pajamas. She's like a real one. Anyways, I gave her a whole monologue, like I know everything about manifestation, astrology, and human design, and here's my religious upbringing, and here's everything I know, and blah 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 blah. And she just looked at me and started laughing, and she was like, "Okay, but like we're just gonna practice being." And like I then had to sit with her on the call for like 2 hours with my eyes closed, and she kept being like, "Okay, like what's coming up?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm like really tuning into my breath." And she's like, "No, keep going." And then I'm sitting there, and then after like an hour, I would really drop in, and she'd be like, "We're there, we are. We're here." And she like really taught me how to come into my center and like quiet my mind and just come into the present being of like what is here right now. And that doesn't mean like you have to quiet your thoughts. But it means you're not going to be like actively thinking, right? Like you're going to be allowing things to fly through your mind and just move right through. It's like the art of sitting and allowing whatever is there and like really being the present loving witness of your experience. And in that state, like, you're in more of like the seat of your soul, kind of just like looking at things going by. And so whenever I'm in any sort of mental spiral, whether it's wanting something, being afraid of something else, any of that chatter, it's all ego, right? Even the good version of it that says, I want this, or this is my goal, or whatever, is still ego. And what I try and do is like quiet all of that, come back to my being, come back to my center, and then ask, how do you want me to move forward? And I think the most amazing things always happen without the plan, without the goals, when I'm able to come back to the present, where the only place where we can be a creator, and then move forward from there.
Beautiful. That is a great ritual. I don't even know if it's a ritual, but it's a great practice.
Yeah, and I mostly do it in the shower. I'm like, whenever I need to like switch my energy, I get in the shower. Like I'll have 3 meetings and just go lay in the shower. It's a really funny thing about me.
It's not funny. I mean, I literally do that, but in the bathtub. I need to do a bath, like in between clients.
Yeah,
Dip in the bath.
exactly.
Okay, so so we know that you're in Aries. So what's your rising and moon?
My rising is Gemini and my moon is Virgo, and that's all great and everything, but I just had a Vedic reading with this woman, and I'm a Vedic Pisces and a rising Taurus and a Leo moon. And so I had a completely different reading with her, and it was all like very accurate in totally different ways. But her name was Astrostasia, Anastasia with Astro at the beginning. She's amazing. And she was like, "You are a frequency and a sound healer. And like, what you need to do is like, focus on attuning your frequency so that anyone around you is like gets knocked in tune when they're around you or in your energy." And that was like a very cool way of like thinking about, who I am and what my purpose is, as opposed to just thinking like, and I sell e-courses and I help people make money, like it was like the next level of like, what am I actually here to do?
But I see that because how
Yeah.
you go into people's businesses, and I know you
Mhm.
mentioned it on this podcast, but like from everything that I've heard from you, is like you go in and you kind of like course correct, like
Yeah.
helping people like pick their company names and being like, wait, this is gonna work better. And so I could definitely see that. You're like almost like a
Attunement. Yeah.
virtual chiropractor for their
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's interesting because like I think in some ways it's clear what I do, but I'm always trying to drill down on like, but what is the real essence of what I actually do? And I shared this I think on socials, but I just collected like 30 testimonials from all of my clients, and I put them into ChatGPT, and I was like, tell me what I do. And it came up with a totally different response around like, you're a business coach who empowers people to take the right next steps and X, Y, and Z. So I've been thinking a lot about the framing of what I do, and about what I want to do more of, right? Because I can do so many things, but I think like to come back to the manifestation of it all, like getting clear on, okay, I can do all of this, but what do I want to do and what's the best use of my time is something that like I'm always kind of thinking about.
I love that, especially the focus on like what's the best use of my time because again, as an entrepreneur, you don't have to work X amount of hours, even though I do
Mhm.
find myself working way more than that. But yeah, it's
Totally.
great.
I mean, I've never worked more than having my own business. Also, like people are like, "Oh, I want to be a freelancer and like work on the beach and whatever." Like, I'm a straight up workaholic. Like, I've been working for 10 years straight, but the thing is, it's fun and it's all for me in the end. And I can pull the lever to turn work on or off, but like when I'm in the downstream of like content taking off or people liking something or inbound coming in, like I'm excited to do it. And so I think that's another thing is like definitely like have the discipline to make yourself have balance if you have a tendency. I think that sounds like more like we do around work.
1,000%. Okay. So I know you shifted a lot in your business and you grew a lot in your business, and I want to talk a little bit about your offerings now.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a bunch of different offerings. One, the way that I make most of my money is consulting with bigger clients, doing brand and marketing consulting. So I have a couple clients on retainer at a time that I'm working with to do like growth consulting to evolve their websites, their businesses, their marketing strategies, to go in and do that attunement, like you've been saying. And I'd like to be on a team as like one of the roles that I have. So when I work with people on retainer, it's usually like up to 20 hours a week. I'm available for that client. So it's kind of like I have a fractional role. So that's a big hack if you're running your own business, like to have consistent income, have clients on retainer, and even have one that goes up to like part-time job vibes. Just like stay the consultant and then orchestrate the relationship like a consultant. Like instead of then just turning into an employee, keep having boundaries, keep having them ask you, does this meeting time work for you? Like don't have it be a thing where it rolls into like people just putting meetings on your calendar. Um, so that brand and marketing strategy is like one of my main things. That's like why I have a business and I make good money is because I do that kind of work. Um, and then I also offer one-on-one coaching and mentorship for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners, and freelancers. So I have something called office hours, which I offer on Mondays. And those are really like hybrid sessions, which can either be like encouraging and spiritual and empowering and like, let's look at your limiting beliefs, or they can be tactical, like I need to send a proposal to a client. What do I do? How much do I charge? And I will sit there and do it with you. So it can be anything from the motivational to the practical in those sessions. And then I'm also getting ready to launch like a more fulsome like coaching service so that I can work with some clients more on an ongoing program and bring that more into the forefront of my work because I like working one-on-one and especially with female entrepreneurs the most. And then I also have an e-course called How to Go Freelance, which is like a zero to launch guide for how to launch your freelance business. I know e-courses like kind of get a bad rap because it feels like everyone's trying to sell you one and they're very scammy, but this one genuinely pulled out of my brain and I must have spent like 1,000 hours writing it. Like I spent $10,000 creating it. Like creating
Wow.
an e-course is so hard. It's like I started with the outline and then I tried to work with a writer and then that didn't work and I realized I needed to be the one to do it. And then finally I like sat down in a week, like got it all out of my body and like it has templates and everything from how to turn your skills into services, how to set your rates, how to send proposals, how to get clients, how to come up with like a rate sheet, how to conduct a client meeting, how to think about LLCs and taxes. So really, if you're like, I think I want to be self-employed, but I don't know where to start, how to go freelance is great. Like you can read or listen to it and you'll get the lay of the land of like, what is this? What are all the things that go into the business? And then you can do exercises to get you to launching your business. And then lastly, I'm just like doing daily content on TikTok, Instagram, and now on my Substack. So my Substack is like my new favorite place on earth. It's so fun. I offer weekly Zoom co-works with anyone in my Substack community. So once a week, we'll all just get on Zoom and be like, what are our goals, and all work together. So that's sort of the landscape of all my things.
I love that. And I love how versatile it is and how you kind of have different levels, like level
Yeah,
level two. Awesome. When you were talking about creating your own course and you're like, okay, maybe I'll hire a writer for this. I want to talk about when do you know it's time to hire? It's a huge,
yeah, totally. I think I'm more modest on that front because I think that like people hire too soon and someone's making 100K and they're like, I should be delegating. Like, if you're making 100K, you can't afford to delegate. Like, make 500K and then delegate. Like, I am like a person who is a big advocate of having mastery over everything in your business because then you can hire people and you actually know what they're doing, right? Like I have tried to hire different people before to help me, and then they end up just like doing work that's not as strong as mine, or I could do it faster, or I need this document like now, but they can't get it back to me to tomorrow. So I'm like, I might as well just do it. So I think it's different answers for different types of businesses. I think definitely like look at where you're resisting like growing and learning new things if you're thinking I'd rather have somebody else do this for me, and also look at like the drag and the lag time of like assigning it out to somebody else and getting it back and how that might affect your business. Like I'm a very fast mover, so I think that's in part why I don't like um having people that I'm delegating to too much. I do have a graphic designer that I love, and she works in the Philippines, so I can give her something to do at night and she's done it by the morning. And I'm like, incredible, now I'm working in my sleep. So like hacks like that, love it. And then I have an ads girl that is amazing. I don't do paid ad setup or like spend or anything, but I work on the creative strategy. So she is like my ride or die. I trust her with everything. I bring her into every project. But in terms of like when I get hired to be a fractional team member, usually like I bring the whole squad. Like I will have my client then hire my graphic designer, my paid ads girl, like my podcast producer. So instead of me hiring an agency, I'll have my clients hire my team. And that's worked out really well for me.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay. And so this has been a huge manifestation of yours. You really manifested this big aligned career for yourself.
No, I feel like I always realize my manifestations retroactively. Like, I'll be like, oh, I said I wanted this, or I wanted to meet this person, or I had a dream about this. But it's usually the things that, like, I have a wanting for, but I don't hold to too tightly. Like, if you're really praying over a manifestation list, like, I don't think that's it. Like, but it's the hits that you get with your body where you're like, I'd like to meet this person, or I would like to do this thing. And then you almost let it go that all of a sudden you're like, and here it is. And that's evidence that you really wanted it.
1,000%.
And so I'm now trying to document my process and retroactively in this manifestation state.
I love that. And then you'll just copy and paste it forever and just manifest the shit out of your life.
Totally. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So, two rapid fire questions that we ask on the podcast. If you could go for dinner with anybody, fictional, real, alive, dead, who would it be and why?
I don't know, maybe Jesus? Like,
Okay. That's fair.
right? Like we just to be in the presence of Christ, like the way that I understand like Jesus is more like Christ consciousness. And it's a state, it's a quality that we can all access, rather than like worshiping a man. But I've been getting like more into Jesus lately and like what he embodied and like the way that he was Christ consciousness. And so right now Jesus is up there.
I only first even heard of Christ consciousness when I read Course in Miracles.
Uh-huh.
That shifted everything for me. And then once you read that book, I feel like you hear it everywhere and you're like, okay,
Totally.
really different.
Yeah, you should read The Way of the Heart. I'll send you the link, but with my coach, it's very Course in Miracles focused. So the whole thing is like everything's your projection. You made this all up. Like, so do you want to change your reality? Like, let's integrate it and shift.
But that goes right back to what you said in the beginning of the call, all about the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Story that
Totally.
you tell yourself that you start living.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second, it's not so rapid fire, but the last question that I'm going to ask you is, what is your spiritual superpower or sixth sense? And how does it work for you in your business?
Yeah. I feel like there's a state that I get into when I'm working with somebody where I'm like, oh, I was just channeling. And like, I don't really know what I was saying or how I came up with that or whatever, but something was just flowing through me. And I think that's where I actually provide the most value to people. It's like not in a document or whatever. It's really in those one-on-one relationships where before the call, I'll really ask like, okay, like, speak through me. Like, give me whatever I need to help this person and like help me see them like through the eyes of Christ, right? Like through the eyes of like just infinite pure potential. And when I can really listen, I can really channel back to them. It's the times when like I am thinking about something else or like kind of typing outside or whatever that like I'm like not providing as much value. So I think to round the corner, listening is really big. Like if I'm really dropped into my listening, then I can channel right back to them what they need to hear.
So if anybody's like, I need more of Grace, I want to work with her, what are all the things? What's your name on Instagram, TikTok, your website?
On Instagram, I'm at How to Go Freelance, and my e-course and my offerings, my one-on-one sessions, you can book on howtogofreelance.com. And then my TikTok is ask_Grace. I had the How to Go Freelance handle, but then I got locked out. So now I'm that. And then on Substack, I'm How to Go Freelance. And my full name is Grace Abbott. GraceAbbott.com is my website. You can find me on LinkedIn as Grace Abbott. So any of those things, you'll find me.
Hey, if you like this podcast episode, please download it, give us a nice review, and follow us on Instagram at Journey with VRD to get all the latest and the greatest updates. Till next week.